Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today is going to be a very special album review. Going to be looking at an album what today celebrates its 50th anniversary. It is often considered one of the greatest albums ever made, and for me would be my personal favourite album of all time. I'm talking about the Beatles Revolver. But just in case you haven't seen one of my videos before, generally what I do is I can give a bit of background information about the album, then I'll show you the vinyl copy of it, what I have, and then go over each song, scoring each track out of 10, and then using those scores to give us a percentage for the album. So as I said, 50 years since this was released on the 5th of August in 1966, it was the Beatles' 7th studio album. So the album before this was Rubber Soul, which many people felt was like a progression from the earlier material, both in terms of lyrical themes and the lyrics, the songwriting, and then also the musical styles and sounds they were exploring. This album carried on that experimental theme, and many people see it linked with Rubber Soul, as they often come as a package these albums. I think it was George Harrison who said that he sees these as Volume 1 and Volume 2 of the same project. Yes, when Rubber Soul was released towards the end of 1965, they went on a short UK tour, and then the band were due to make their third movie in the early part of 1966. However, they rejected Brian Epstein's proposals for this film, and instead took some time off. It was the longest amount of time that they had off up until this point, and they used it generally just to relax. It'd be a hectic year, 1965, and they used it to write songs and prepare for the recording of this album. So the actual recording sessions were dominated by experimentation and an anything goes attitude, any ideas what they had, generally tried out and just to see if they worked and improved the songs in any way, and there were many technical advancements made during the recording of this album. For instance, this album has the first use of automatic double tracking, which was invented by Abbey Road engineer Ken Townsend. Basically just an easier way of double tracking vocals, because before this you had to record your same vocal track twice, and it was quite hard to get the same phrasing on the vocals to get the right effect of a double track take. So it was much simpler to do on this album, and also the first ever use of headphones while recording was on this album. All things what we now take for granted in modern recording studios. So the album was preceded by two non-album singles, or just one non-album single, but of course the two sides for it: Paperback Writer and Rain. They very much showcase the new sound, the Beatles are going in the more guitar-heavy sound, and great, both great, fantastic songs. Could have made the album, but it was very much custom practice to release these non-album singles. Around the time of the album being released, the Beatles, they were on tour. They had toured Japan, Germany, and America. However, this would be the last tour, and they didn't perform a single song from this album live. As far as the name of the album is concerned, it is a play on words, of course, revolver being a gun, but also a record revolving around a turntable. But before that, there was some debate as to what to actually call the album. Some names up for consideration were Abracadabra, and then also I think Ringo suggested After Geography, playing on the Rolling Stones title Aftermath. So naturally the album was very commercially successful, topping the UK charts for 7 weeks, and the US version, which was cut down from this version that it only had 11 songs in it, also topped the US charts for 6 weeks. The album got a lot of attention in Britain, and very much seen as an innovative album from the start. However, reception in the US was a little bit more muted, as there was various controversies that were surrounding the band, least of all John Lennon's comments that the band were more popular than Jesus. So I'll now just show you the vinyl copies here. I have two vinyl copies here. They're both pretty much the same, both reissues. This is the stereo reissue from the stereo vinyl box here, and this is a standalone mono release. I'll show the mono release because I do prefer the album in mono. There's the back of it there. Got the original sort of flip backs thing on it. I've kept this one in shrink wrap. The label looks like this here. Parlophone, just on both sides there. And now I've also got the CD to it here. This is the 2009 stereo remaster. Just also like to mention like the cover as well, designed by like the old friend artist Klaus Vormann, like an old friend of theirs from Hamburg. So here's the 2009 CD here. The CD just comes out at the end there. These are quite nice. Comes out little booklets here with like various photos from like the photo sessions and like the recording sessions as well, which is quite interesting there. So you see, there they are there recording this wonderful album. So I'm now just going to go over all of the album's songs. I'll score each song out of 10, and then those scores will be used to give us a percentage for the album. 'Cause I'm the tax man. Yeah, I'm the tax. So we open up with a George Harrison pen number called Taxman. A 10 out of 10 for me. Great opener. Very sort of harsh, biting guitar sound like on this one. Very much fits with like the spitefulness of like the lyrics, where like he's like, we're not complaining, but like he's commenting on like the fact that like the Beatles were like being punished with like very like, excessive tax from like the government like at the time, and I think he says like there's one for you, 19 for me, like as I want like the lyrics on the song. The musical performance is fantastic as well. Got a great bass part like from Paul McCartney, and like also he plays out the guitar solo. One of my very favourite Beatles guitar solos is Taxman, and like it's played by Paul McCartney. It's like a fantastic song. Great way to start the album. So the second track in is Eleanor Rigby, and I'm giving this a 10 out of 10. It is a great Paul McCartney number. I think it's like universally recognised as being one of his finest songs. Great lyrics on this one about like loneliness, like a very like profound issue for someone like as young as like Paul was like when he wrote this, to be like writing about. Like he's only about 24 I think like when he wrote this song. Reportedly all four Beatles like actually like contributed lyrics to this song, like just like wee lines like here and there. Now the name Eleanor Rigby, McCartney has said comes from like the actress Eleanor Bron, who co-starred with them in Help, and like a shop in Bristol called Rigby's. And like he said that it's just like a coincidence that there is a gravestone what has the name Eleanor Rigby on it, in like the church like where like John and Paul like actually met, like St. Peter's Church in Liverpool. You can actually see like a gravestone what has like the name on it. However, McCartney said that like he wasn't like actually like conscious of this like when like he was like naming like the song. Now the actual musical track is like very bleak. We've just got like a string arrangement like accompanying like McCartney's like vocals, and that very much broke conventions like in popular music. But for me though, I have overheard this song just a little bit, but like I can't deny that it is an amazing song, and like that's why like I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. It was also a single, reached number 1 in the UK, but only number 11 in like in the US. Third track in is called I'm Only Sleeping, another 10 out of 10 for me. A John Lennon song, and like a very psychedelic number, quite dreamy one here, like very much like achieved by like very speeding, like while like recording this song, like recording it like slower and then like speeding like the tapes up. Sounds really like ahead of its time. Like the lyrics for this one like is like Lennon often spent like a lot of like time like at like his house, generally just like sleeping and like relaxing, and that's what like the song's about. Like also people say that it's about drugs as well. It is like a little bit druggy in like some ways, but like it is like again like quite like a sort of like a lazy sort of like afternoon song. The actual track features a backwards guitar solo played by George Harrison, where like he had to like compose like the solo like as like he wanted it, and then like he got George Martin to like basically just like write it out backwards, then learn it backwards, to give it like this really like sort of like this swooping effect going throughout the song. Like it is like a really fantastic song, and like one of my favourites on the album. The song is called Love You Too, and I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. This is the second Harrison contribution on the album, and like it's his first ever sort of proper full-on Indian track. Like he had like explored like indie music on like Norwegian Wood. We had like the we had like George playing sitar on that. But this is like the first like proper one, like he'd done like a couple like throughout like the Beatles career, and like very similar like to Eleanor Rigby in like the sense that it features very minimal involvement from like the other Beatles. Instead, he uses musicians from London's Asian music circle, and like lyrically, it is sort of like a part like a love song like to Pattie Boyd, like his wife at like the time. But like it's also quite like philosophical like lyrics as well. Like I really like this one, and like it is probably like one of like my favourite George like Indian tracks, like what he done. Next one up is the classic Here, There and Everywhere, another Paul McCartney number, and it is one of his, again, one of his very, very, very best songs. A very sort of sweet, tender ballad with like this gorgeous melody. Has to be one of his very, very best melodies. The actual sound of this track, like the backing vocals, is like said to have been like inspired by the Beach Boys album Pet Sound, released like only like a couple of months before this album was released. And this is like a track that is often thought of very highly, both by like Paul McCartney and George Martin, and like also John Lennon like as well, like said some like really nice things like about this track as well. So yeah, like it is like a fantastic song, and like one of like his very, very best love songs. And now for the Ringo number on the album, Yellow Submarine. Very, very popular one, and like a lot of people do have issue like with this song. Like when people sometimes like criticise this album, this is like the first song that they go to, they say, well like say like Rubber Soul's better because Revolver has like Yellow Submarine on it. Like I think that argument really doesn't stand up. I'd say it just adds to like the mix like of the album. Like it really gives this album like a lot of like variety. Yes, it is like quite like a lightweight children's song. Was written by Paul McCartney, especially for Ringo. That's why it has like a rather like say like limited like melody in terms of like the vocal like melody like on it. But it is a perfect song for Ringo. Like it really, really, really works well. And like also like the sound effects like on it as well. Like we've got like that wee middle bit like where there's all like the we've got like these like psychedelic sounds. Like it is quite ahead of its time in like that in that regard. So like it is like that is something what I don't think like this song like gets recognised for. This is probably like the most popular one like on the album, but like in terms of like sales and like general like popularity. Like it was a big single, reaching #1 in like the UK for 6 weeks, but like only reached #2 in the US. But now we have one of my favourites on the entire album, and like a really underrated Beatles song, She Said, a 10 out of 10. A fantastic John Lennon song. Lyrics on this one like are like inspired by like a bad acid trip, and like the sort of like the whole sound like off the track, like the very jarring guitar sound, and like the bewildering nature of like the shifting time signatures very much like adds to like the soundscape like on this song. Also like a little Beatles fact like about this song here, Paul McCartney doesn't play on the song at all. Supposedly like they had like a bit of like an argument like as well Paul McCartney was like the only Beatle like up to this point who like hadn't had LSD, so maybe like he felt like a little bit like awkward like playing like on like this really druggy song. But it is a fantastic song, very much doesn't sound dated at all. Sounds quite similar like in some ways to like 90s stuff like Paul Weller sort of like music. Like it's this song has like aged very, very well, I'd say. Good day, sunshine. But now opening up with side 2, we have Good Day Sunshine, which I'm giving a 9 out of 10 to. A very sort of optimistic, like upbeat, like summery song, and great song for like a summer's day. Very like piano like as well, and it played by like George Martin very much like adds to like the mood on this one. For me though, the reason why like it's not like a 10 out of 10 is like it is like a little bit repetitive, like the chorus, like it is like, just like the line Good Day Sunshine like repeated. Like it doesn't drag this song, like I'm not gonna get like too harsh with it, but for me like it isn't like 10 out of 10 material, but it is still a great song, and like it's like on like many other albums this would be like an absolute highlight off the album, but for me like it sits at like a 9 out of 10. Now then we get the song And Your Bird Can Sing, which I'm giving a 10 out of 10 to. I love this song, and this is like a great effortless rocker great lyrics on it, but like also like I think like the highlight like on the song is the guitar playing. That main riff at like the start like is played in unison by like Paul and George, and like it really like stands out. Like it's got like a great guitar work from like both of them. Although like John Lennon like really doesn't think much of like the song like in various like interviews and that like over the years he's been very like dismissive like of the song, but like I love it. Like I really love like the lyrics and like the musical style of the song as well. Just really sounds great.
No sign of love behind the tears cried for no one.
And then we get pretty much like the complete opposite of that for No One. A 10 out of 10, a great McCartney ballad on this one here. Probably some like Paul McCartney's finest melody, finest lyrics on this song here. The lyrics on like this one detail like his his failing like relationship with like the actress Jane Asher. Like they would break up, I think in early '68 or something. So like they were like starting like to grow apart like at like around about this sort of time. Features like a session player called Andy Seville, who like plays like the French horn like on this one here, and like again like Eleanor Rigby, quite like a bleak sort of like musical track. It is I think like McCartney just plays like a piano and you've got like the French horn and like a little bit of like hi-hat work from Ringo on it. But yeah, like it's a very sort of sad like melancholy song, but it is just a fantastic melody and like great lyrics on this track. Next one is another John Lennon rocker, a very good song called Dr. Robert here, and a 9 out of 10. Lyrics on this one are like about like a doctor from like New York called Robert Friedman, who like basically like prescribed like these drugs and like various pills and that to like the wealthy people like off New York, which like the Beatles like reportedly like heard about and like thought, oh like that'd be something cool to write a song about, so they did. And like yeah, like it is like a good song. You've got like I like the sort of contrast between like the more like rocking verses and then like the chorus which goes quite quiet. You've got like a bit of like a harmonium I think in like the background. Like it adds like different textures like to the song. But for me the reason why like it's not like a 10 is because it is like a little bit similar to like Annie Burke Sing and like She Said, like that sort of like guitar rocker sung by John Lennon. It's like kind of been done like a couple of times like already like on this album, and like by this point like it's like well like we've sort of like we've heard this already really, but the actual lyrics though are great, so like I'm not gonna take like too much away from this song.
I'll make you maybe next time around.
Next one up is third and final George Harrison contribution, I Want to Tell You. A 9 out of 10. A great Harrison song. Great riff to start off the track. Really great. Lyrics for this are like are fantastic as well. Sort of like about like self-consciousness and like at this point though like Harrison was like he was going like into like his Hindu like spirituality thing. So like it does like have that sort of like that thing like running through it like with like this sort of like these slightly more like philosophical lyrics.
Hard to get you into my life.
Second to last track now is Got to Get You Into My Life. 10 out of 10, a true Beatles classic. Very much like inspired by like the Tamla Motown sound, although it wasn't always like that on like the early takes on like the Anthology 2 album. It sounds very different like arrangement to it, but then they put like the brass on and like it became this more soulful Motown number. But like on like the face of it, like the lyrics are like quite simple, quite like sort of like just like a love song really. But like McCartney like has said that like he wrote the song about like finding like cannabis and like taking that, and like he sort of said like it was like an ode to pot. And then we close with probably the greatest song on the album, Tomorrow Never Knows. A 10 out of 10. A real amazing technical achievement, I'd say. It really just like pushed like the boundaries like when this song was released. The first song like actually recorded like for the album like as well. The lyrics on this one, so like John like was inspired by like a book called The Tibetan Book of the Dead, what like he was reading, and like the works of like Timothy Leary and like various people like that. Very sort of eerie track. Like the music is like phenomenal like on this one here. And now like we've got like all like these tape blues like coming like in and out like throughout like the song, brought in like by like all 4 Beatles, and then like mixed like throughout like Abbey Road Studios. They had like tapes like going like everywhere like while recording this one here. And like also like to give out like a shout out as well to Ringo's drumming like on this one here. Like it must be like sort of like his best drumming. Like it's like a great drum pattern, and like yeah, like just a fantastic song. Like really great like psychedelic track. Right, so overall it would be a score of 95% for this album. Now that, for the record, is the highest score that I have ever given out to an album, and like I don't think that will ever be beaten like anytime soon. Guys, what can I say about this? It is a classic album, one of my very favourites of all time. There is not a weak song on here. There's a couple of like ones that like I couldn't quite give like 10s to for like personal preference, but there is not a dull moment on this album. For me, this was the Beatles at like the most like experimental. Many people give like that badge to like Sgt. Pepper, but for me, like this one here like just has like a few more like interesting like sounds and like different like ideas being explored on it. And like also like the other thing as well, this hasn't dated one bit. Still sounds quite like contemporary like to this day. But like, and like what's also like notable with this album was like by this point like McCartney had like gained like equal status like to John Lennon like in terms of like songwriting, like because even like with like Rubber Soul, say it was John who had like the really great songs like Norwegian Wood and like In My Life and like Girl, like those songs. Like McCartney like was writing like some great stuff. I mean like Yesterday, Michelle, Drive My Car, but it was really on this album where we have 3 of like his very best songs like Ellen and Rigby, Here, There and Everywhere and For No One on this album. And like this for me would be the only album where like they'd be like equals like as songwriters, because like after this McCartney would like take over and like guys like John Lennon like was like losing interest like with the Beatles. So yeah, a lot of variety on here, as well as some of the very best Beatles songs. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this review of this amazing album. I'd like to know what you think of it down below in the comments, and also if like you have like any suggestions for future videos, those would be much appreciated. And I will see you all next time. Goodbye.